Hello, my name is Alfredo Villarreal, and I will be presenting the longitudinal specificity of the BioPlex 2200 HIV antigen antibody differentiating combination assay in routine screening in a U.S. public health laboratory. This work was done by my colleagues and myself. My disclosure is I am employed by Bio-Rad Laboratories. To do a brief background, the introduction of combination HIV and antigen and antibody diagnostic screening tests developed over the last decade have improved the overall sensitivity and detection of HIV. While sensitivity of HIV combination type assays have been well described over the years, long-term specificity has not. This discussion will examine the specificity of the BioPlex HIV differentiating combination assay that was introduced in the U.S. in 2016. The BioPlex HIV assay detects and differentiates HIV-1 antigen, P24, HIV-1 antibody, both groups M and O, and HIV-2 antibody, providing individual test results as well as an overall screening result. Our objectives. So in a U.S. public health laboratories, initial diagnostic screening for HIV infection is performed using the BioPlex HIV assay. The laboratory observed some specificity issues early in its testing and reached out to us to troubleshoot. Poor specificity can lead to higher false initial reactivity that could be costly and time-consuming for a laboratory to mitigate. As a result, ongoing data has been collected to monitor monthly rolling specificity within any given lot. The collection form is displayed here on the right, and the various possible reactivity profiles are shown. This study expands on the original data previously presented at this conference on the BioPlex HIV assay for routine HIV diagnostic screening in a public health laboratory with additional years of data and further analysis. Our methodology. The institution uses the CDC recommended HIV testing algorithm to evaluate all specimens. Briefly, any initial reactive results are repeat tested, and those repeatedly retested results are then followed up by using the algorithm guidelines. So supplemental testing was performed on the Bio-Rad Genius HIV-1 HIV-2 differentiation assay, and when necessary, HIV NAT testing was performed at the lab or it was sent out. So between October 2016 and October 2020, over 158,000 serum samples, approximately of which 75% were fresh and 25% were frozen, were submitted to the public health laboratory for routine HIV testing. So a total of 49 months were tabulated with monthly details shown in the table on the right, primarily for reference. The next slide will show a little bit more. Month-to-month specificity was calculated and compared to the BioPlex HIV stated specificity claims. Overall specificity was also calculated over the entire period. The Fisher's exact test was used to determine any significant differences in specificity. That would be a p-value less than or equal to 0.05. This was done monthly as well as over the entire period. Now for our results. After tabulating the data, we graphically plotted the data to easily spot any trends. First off, the overall specificity during the four-year period was very high at 99.8%, matching very closely the BioPlex HIV stated clinical specificity claim of 99.86 and was within the stated confidence intervals of the BioPlex assay. The stated confidence intervals of the BioPlex assay are 99.73 to 99.93 and is noted by the green bars toward the top of the graph. Individual monthly specificity results range from 98.77 to 99.95%, and the CIs, the confidence intervals, are noted by the whisker-style plots in black. The monthly testing volume is noted by the purple bars, and one can see the effects COVID has had on testing volume during the lockdown. And at the end of this data set is starting to recover. Lot changes were also tracked during the period, and it is represented by the dashed blue lines. A statistically significant decrease in specificity was observed in 5 of the first 10 months periods, shown as red dots the red dots outside of the confidence intervals. And it was essentially traced to one specific lot. Subsequent lot performance has greatly normalized, with 1 month of decreased specificity noted in October of 2019. Upon internal review, that initial lot was determined to have a higher background noise that caused lower specificity. And we did an extra analysis looking to see if one removes that lot from the data, the overall longitudinal specificity improves to 99.86, and that would be with an UN of 121,000 data points. So continuing on with our results, in this particular chart, you can see that the overall initial reactivity rate was 2.09%, and upon repeat testing was reduced to 1.97%. Of the 3,118 repeatedly reactive samples, 89.8%, or 2,800 specimens, or samples, were confirmed HIV reactive by either antibody or NAT testing, which indicates the positive predictive value of the BioPlex HIV assay. The overall prevalence at this particular institute was 1.77%, and a total of 318 samples did not confirm, giving an excellent overall false reactivity rate of 0.2%. As previously mentioned, the overall specificity was 98.8%, and this was not determined to be statistically significant from the BioPlex assay as tested by the Fisher's exact test calculation. The p-value is noted there on the lower right-hand corner at 0.32 essentially. So doing a deeper dive or looking at the data a little bit closer, one may notice that a large portion of the non-confirmed specimens were HIV-1 antigen only or in conjunction with HIV-1 and 2 undifferentiated profiles, undifferentiated antibody profiles. And our investigation discovered that most of those false positives were traced back to that lot with the higher background. So if one were to exclude that lot from the analysis, it significantly reduces the number of false positives by 70%, bringing the false positivity rate to 0.14%. So in summary, even with the first lot specificity issues, the longitudinal specificity was very high for the BioPlex HIV assay during the 4-year period at 99.8%. And if you remove that initial lot, it actually goes up to 99.86%. It matches very closely the instructions for use as stated in clinical specificity claims, and it's definitely within the confidence intervals of the BioPlex HIV assay. Since the lot changes were also tracked during the period, that's when we saw the significant decrease in specificity in the first of the 10 months, which was traced to that one specific lot. However, the subsequent lot performance has greatly normalized, with 1 month of decreased specificity noted in October of 2019. So in conclusion, the BioPlex HIV assay has demonstrated excellent specificity as a screening diagnostic test in routine specimen testing sent to a U.S. public health laboratory. I'd like to thank my colleagues for helping me with this project, and to the U.S. Public Health Lab for allowing us to share this data. Thank you for your time.